afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, former Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo slams President Marcos's decision to remove VP Sara and past presidents from the National Security Council. Fuel prices expected to increase by as much as 1 peso this week. Millions of people across the U.S. are under alerts due to a winter storm. Heavy snow also blanketing parts of the UK. And a look at the winners in this year's Golden Globe Awards. Thanks for joining us. Purely political. That's how former Duterte Chief Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo describes the removal of VP Sara Duterte and past presidents from the National Security Council. Malacanang announced the reorganization last week, saying the VP is not considered relevant to the responsibilities of the NSC.
They want them out, the two Dutertes. It's all geared towards 2028. Now, the two other living presidents were included to deodorize para hindi halata.
Panelo insists the insights of the VP and former chief executives on national security are necessary. But for NSC Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya, the composition of the NSC largely depends on the priorities of the incumbent administration.
I think Secretary Sal is simply expressing his personal opinion. I think the composition of the National Security Council is really the discretion of the President, and I think the President made a judgment call here. It's his body anyway. He's the chair. I think there are some reasons behind the President's decision to remove certain individuals from the Council itself.
Malaya, however, did confirm the NSC considers the statement of VP Sara in an online press briefing last year as a threat to national security. Back then, Duterte said she had contracted an assassin to eliminate the president, his wife, and the House Speaker if she herself is killed. On Duterte's claim there are threats to her life as well, Malaya says being the second highest official of the land, that too is a national security concern. Malacanang brushes off Salvador Panelo's criticisms of the reorganization of the NSC. The Presidential Communications Office says they will not release a statement regarding his remarks. On to growing calls for the Social Security system to suspend its contribution hike this year. Among those joining the clamor, former SSS Chief Rolando Makasait. He says Malacanang has the power to suspend Republic Act 1199. Makasait adds the agency earned big in the last 2 years, so the funds intended for the benefit of its members will not be affected. On weekend agenda of the Bilyonaryo News channel, Bayan Muna Chairman Neri Colmenares also says the SSS must settle its previous collection before carrying out this initiative. The contribution rate has steadily increased, starting from 12% in 2019. It is expected to spike to 15% this year.
Alam mo yung SSS, parang PhilHealth yan eh. Mas concerned sila sa report nila sa pondo, na ang pondo namin lumalaki, lumalago, gano? Hindi nila focus yung benepisyo ng mga miyembro. Kawawa ang worker kasi pag hindi nire-remit ng employer yung premium niya, pag may nangyari sa kanya, delinquente siya, wala siyang premium doon. So, sagutin niya ngayon kung aksidente siya o kailangan niya ng kung ano man, may problema talaga tayong malaki pag hindi increase ng SSS yung collection rate. Bakit sila mag-iimbento ng bagong koleksyon, hindi pa nga nila nasingil yung lumang koleksyon?
The Alliance of Concerned Teachers Private Schools also pushing back against the increase in SSS contributions this year. The group calls it a burden and an attack to teachers and workers who are struggling with high prices of goods and low wages. They also argue the 2016 pension hike has yet to materialize, but they're also already met with more contributions to pay and less pay to take home. The Armed Forces says its modernization program remains a priority despite a budget cut this year. AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner stresses plans to boost naval, aerial, and cyber defense capabilities. Bronner asserts they are seeking to strengthen the AFP's presence in the country's territories based on current international laws. Under the 2025 General Appropriations Act, the AFP will receive 35 billion pesos for its modernization program. That's 15 billion pesos lower than the budget proposed by President Bongbong Marcos to Congress. The Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX, expects an increase in passengers today as the holiday season officially ends. Let's check in on the situation there with Agatha Gregorio reporting to us live from the terminal. Hi, Agatha.
Mai, the holiday season foot traffic here at the PITX crossed the 3 million mark yesterday. That's from December 20 until January 5. And the surge of passengers is something we can definitely still see today. This early in the day, lines are getting long at some entrances and bus bays. The PITX expects foot traffic to surpass 170,000 by the end of the day. And from last Thursday onwards, it has not gone below 160,000. Almost 1,000 items have also been confiscated from passengers, and so travelers are reminded to leave certain objects at home, like lighters, knives, cutters, and fireworks. Confiscated items are turned over to the police. Mai?
Agatha, so for today, so far, how many people have gone to the PITX?
Mai, just as of 9 a.m., the foot traffic here is already more than 50,000, but likely due to online bookings, we're not seeing long lines at ticket booths. Mai?
Thank you for that report, Agatha Gregorio, live from the PITX. Heads up to motorists, better gas up now as fuel prices are expected to increase this week. Unioil says diesel prices could go up by 1 peso and 20 centavos to 1 peso and 40 centavos per liter. Gasoline by as much as 1 peso a liter. Industry sources cite the OPEC's production cuts as one of the reasons for the price hike. Millions of people across the U.S. are under alerts due to a winter storm. This powerful weather system is expected to bring a dangerous mix of snow, ice, and blizzard conditions, with the Central Plains already blanketed in snow. Authorities are warning of treacherous travel conditions and potential power outages from Kansas to the mid-Atlantic. More than 77,000 customers are already without power. That number is expected to rise as the storm intensifies. Heavy snowfall over the United Kingdom from Ireland to parts of Scotland, England, and Wales. Authorities warn sleet, heavy snow, and thawing could lead to flooding in some places. There's also danger snow could turn to a spell of freezing rain. Manchester and Liverpool airports have been temporarily closed, disrupting travel. Over in South Korea, thousands brave a snowstorm to rally for and against suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol. Both sides gathered outside Yoon's residence in Seoul, with one camp demanding his arrest, while the other called for his impeachment to be declared invalid. An attempt by police to arrest Yoon failed on Friday due to a tense 6-hour standoff with his security service. Yoon was impeached for his botched attempt to declare martial law last December 3. His impeachment trial has been set for January 14. Tourists meanwhile descend on the Chinese city of Harbin for its annual Ice and Snow World Festival. The event is celebrating its 41st year with the theme Dream of Winter, Love Among Asia. This year's festival is said to be the largest in history as it features a record 300,000 cubic meters of ice and snow.
I'm from the south of Heilongjiang, South Jiang. I'm not a Harbin local. I have lived outside of the area for more than a year. As Chinese New Year is coming, I thought I would go home to see. But then I heard that the hometown's, Harbin's, ice and snow world is quite popular in the past 2 years. So I came to have fun, to look around and experience the changes in the hometown.
Indeed, there are so many people coming to Harbin. We also saw a lot of foreigners, including a lot of South Koreans we saw earlier, coming to Harbin to have fun. And I feel that Harbin is a city that is able to attract a lot of foreign tourists. I'm very surprised, but we also very much like Harbin.
We're taking a break. Still to come, authorities ramping up security preparations for this week's Traslasyon. That and more when Newsfeed at Noon returns. Stay with us. You're back on Newsfeed at Noon. The country's poll body boosting preparations with only a few months to go before Election Day. Our correspondent Hannah T joins us on the line to give us an update. Hannah, what are the COMELEC's activities today?
The COMELEC is kicking off the first Monday of the year with full blast preparations. Only 126 days left before the 2025 polls, and the COMELEC conducted an audit of one of its 8 data centers here in Makati, which will secure and handle election data. ProVNV, a U.S.-based firm that certifies systems, is here to lead the audit along with senior COMELEC officials. This same firm recently completed the trusted build of the election software, ensuring it's safe, reliability, and free from any vulnerabilities. Another crucial part of the elections is happening today, Mai. The printing of ballots will officially start at the National Printing Office this afternoon. 66 senatorial candidates and 156 party list groups will be on the ballots this year, and ballots for overseas voters are set to be completed first since they will vote only for national positions. The 2025 elections come with several firsts, including the first automated elections with a South Korean firm named Miro Systems and the first possible parliamentary elections in the Bangsamoro region. Mai?
So, Hannah, you mentioned there are many firsts for this year's elections. That includes the COMELEC's partnership with Miro. So, itong data center audit ba? Is this a first for the Commission too?
Yes, tama, Mai. This is the first time the Commission also disclosed to the media where data centers are, as well as the audit, with their goal of ensuring transparency to the public. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you. Hannah T reporting. The government boosted subsidies to state-run companies, according to new data from the Treasury Bureau. Subsidies surged by 81.6% in November to 12.23 billion pesos. A large chunk went to major non-financial government corporations, with the National Irrigation Administration receiving the largest share at nearly 7 billion pesos. This is almost triple the 2.52 billion pesos it was allocated in November 2023. The National Food Authority was the second biggest recipient, securing a subsidy of 3 billion pesos. Gross international reserves, or GIR, hit an estimated $109 billion by the end of 2024. This exceeds the central bank's target of $106 billion for the year. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, credits the growth to strong foreign exchange inflows from cash remittances and foreign direct investments. Looking ahead, the BSP expects reserves to increase further to $110 billion in 2025. But the International Monetary Fund is even more optimistic, projecting the GIR to reach $115.9 billion this year. The Bangko Sentral lifts its moratorium on new digital money providers. The central bank has removed its ban on applications for new electronic money issuers among non-bank financial institutions. BSP Deputy Governor Mamerto Tangonan says this move aims to promote digital payments, improve financial inclusion, and drive innovation in the financial sector. The moratorium was first imposed in November 2021 to manage resources and ensure financial system stability. Joseph C., the chairman and owner of Global Ferronickel Holdings, is accused of fabricating his Filipino citizenship through a late birth registration. Former Magsasaka Party List Representative Argel Joseph Kabatbat also questions the authenticity of C's baptismal certificate. He claims it bore a forged priest signature and referenced a church that was not constructed until decades after the supposed baptism date. Kabatbat filed a case against C in 2014, questioning the legitimacy of the businessman's citizenship. Bilyonaryo.com has tried to get a statement from C, but he has yet to respond. The allegations echo those against controversial former Bamban Mayor Alice Go. The Baguio Regional Trial Court rejects the Camp John Hay Development Corporation's latest attempt to prevent the return of the 247-hectare property to the government. In an order dated January 3rd, the court junked the motion to delay the turnover of the property to the base's Conversion and Development Authority. For the BCDA, this means all land and improvements in the property must be turned over to them, whether directly held by CJH DevCo or its subsidiaries. In October last year, the Supreme Court issued a certificate of finality of judgment in the consolidated cases of BCDA versus Camp John Hay Development Corporation. Overseas, New York City begins to implement a so-called congestion pricing toll for motorists entering the center of Manhattan. Under the policy, drivers will have to pay $9 to access the busiest part of the city during peak hours. A first of its kind in the U.S., the toll aims to reduce gridlock in the densely packed area and raise funds to improve the city's public transit system. The program survived multiple lawsuits aimed at blocking it.
If you do drive, if you have to drive, we want you to spend less time stuck in traffic. Your time is worth real money, and that's why the business community has supported this so much, because time wasted in traffic is a huge drag on our economy. So we want to see speeds pick up, especially for buses now moving at under 5 miles an hour in Midtown. Buses are slower than walking in much of Midtown. We want to see if that can be improved. We want to make sure that emergency response times, fire trucks, police cars, and most of all ambulances can get where they're going faster. Those times have been going up, up every year because of traffic.
We're taking another breather. Up ahead, Bluefin Tuna fetches 207 million yen or $1.3 million at a Tokyo auction. Keep it here on Newsfeed at noon. Welcome back to Newsfeed at noon. Again, the headlines. Former Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo slams President Marcos's decision to remove VP Sara and past presidents from the National Security Council. Fuel prices expected to increase by as much as 1 peso this week. Millions of people across the U.S. are under alerts due to a winter storm. Heavy snow also blanketing parts of the U.K. And a look at the winners in this year's Golden Globe Awards. China's so-called monster ship was spotted in the waters of Zambales. For more on this, we have on the line Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela. Good afternoon, Commodore Tariela. Thanks for taking our call.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mai, and also your viewers.
So, Commodore Tariela, when did the Coast Guard monitor the vessel, which, as the PCG said in a statement you just released, clearly lacks the legal authority to operate within our EEZ, or Exclusive Economic Zone?
So the China Coast Guard vessel 5901 was first monitored by the Philippine Coast Guard using the Canadian's dark vessel detection last Saturday. We monitored that it is positioned somewhere between 54 to 55 nautical miles off the coast of Capones Island in Zambales. Because of that information, the Commandant of the Philippine Coast Guard, Admiral Ron Hill Gaban, was decisive enough to deploy BRP Cabla together with our aircraft to confirm the location of the China Coast Guard vessel. And we have confirmed that they are there. And since Saturday until now, the Philippine Coast Guard vessel BRP Cabla remains to be tailing the China Coast Guard monster ship, ensuring that they're not going to harass or endanger the lives of our Filipino fishermen in the vicinity of Zambales.
So it was discovered off Capones Island in Zambales last Saturday. Where is it now? Has it moved?
Yes.
Has it moved since?
Yes, it is slowly moving. Yesterday, it was moving upward to the northern part of Zambales, keeping a distance somewhere between 60 to 70 nautical miles. And this morning, it was also located in Occidental Mindoro at 18 nautical miles. But as I said, it is still slowly moving. It's not stationary. But despite of such movement and despite of the size of our smaller Coast Guard vessel, the Commandant still has directed our Coast Guard vessel not to let go from their focus, the presence of the Chinese Coast Guard. So on our third day now, the Philippine Coast Guard is actively tailing and monitoring the illegal presence of the China Coast Guard vessel.
So tell us more about the aircraft that was deployed to monitor this ship, and were there any incidents documented recently, such as intentional ramming from this Coast Guard vessel?
Well, as far as the the precautionary action of the Coast Guard, especially coming from the directive of the Commandant, because we are anticipating that the China Coast Guard monster ship might endanger or jeopardize the safety of our smaller Coast Guard vessel. That's why we needed to have an aircraft to ensure that we have documented the illegal actions should there be on the part of the Chinese Coast Guard. And if ever they are going to have an incident towards the Philippine Coast Guard, we would immediately or easily know the location of our Coast Guard vessel. But so far, on our 3 days in a row, there is still no aggressive action that led to harassment or even intentional ramming on the part of the Chinese Coast Guard.
So this China Coast Guard vessel is currently moving, and the Philippine Coast Guard currently tailing it. Commodore Tariela, why do you think China sent their monster ship in our EEZ, and how do you view this move?
Well, there are two ways that we can interpret such deployment. One is, of course, the Chinese Coast Guard for so long a time has been wanting to legitimize the presence of the Chinese Coast Guard in Bajo de Masinloc. So for them to deploy such monster ship to normalize the presence of the Chinese Coast Guard would further legitimize their position in that area. But as what I said, the objective of the Coast Guard is to challenge that position so that they cannot say that they have a normal deployment of the China Coast Guard vessel. The second other reason is that the China Coast Guard is wanting to break the confidence of the Filipino fishermen. It is worth noting that for the past 2 years already, since we started, since the start of President Bongbong Marcos' administration, we have become very vigilant and actively supporting the presence of the Filipino fishermen, making sure that they can freely fish within our exclusive economic zone. So the Chinese government is not really happy with the increasing number of Filipino fishermen engaged in fishing in Bajo de Masinloc and in different areas of BDM. So we can interpret this in a way that the Chinese Coast Guard monstership is a way for China Coast Guard to discourage the Filipino fishermen in going in this area.
So, Commodore Jay, can you give us an update on how many Chinese vessels are currently within our EEZ?
Unfortunately, that's a number that I cannot publicly disclose. The only information that I can provide now is the China Coast Guard 5901.
All right, so do you think these aggressive actions by China will continue this year? Because in the past years, there have been constant harassment from the Chinese Coast Guard and Chinese militia ships.
Well, the Chinese Coast Guard, together with the Chinese Maritime Militia, has been actively been deployed in the West Philippine Sea. I think that there's nothing new about it. The only difference is that under this administration, we are more vigilant in countering their illegal presence. We are more supportive in the welfare of the Filipino fishermen. So as far as the Coast Guard is concerned, despite of the persistent deployment of the Chinese Coast Guard, under the administration of President Bongbong Marcos and the leadership of the Commandant Admiral Loni Hildavan, the Philippine Coast Guard will equally respond to such unlawful presence by deploying more Coast Guard vessels and aircraft in the West Philippine Sea.
Okay, final words from you, sir, before we let you go. How does the PCG plan to address these continued harassment from China?
Well, as what the Commandant has expressed commitment to the President, we are going to support the intention of the President. We are going to hold the line for the Filipinos to recognize.
Commodore? Okay, I think we lost Commodore Jay Tariela there. That was the spokesperson of the Philippine Coast Guard. In other news, Pogos have no place here in the Philippines. That's assertion from Justice Secretary Boying Remulla after the Immigration Bureau revealed some 11,000 foreign Pogo workers remain in the country despite a nationwide ban that took effect on December 31st. Remulla warns of severe legal consequences as he stresses the administration stands firm in its resolve to intensifying its guerrilla operations against non-compliant Pogos. It's all hands on deck in Manila with the annual Traslasyon happening this Thursday, January 9. The Manila local government is teaming up with the police, the armed forces, the Coast Guard, and the Philippine Red Cross to ensure the safety of devotees during the feast. Security personnel will be deployed in key destinations, the Quiapo Church, the Quirino Grandstand, and the procession route. A gun and liquor ban will also be enforced for the Feast of the Black Nazarene. Authorities in Quiapo Church also gearing up for the big event on Thursday. Father Robert Arellano, the parochial vicar of the Quiapo Church, tells the Bilyonaryo News Channel that they have yet to pinpoint the running time of the procession. He explains the sequence of each feast is unique. He also reminds devotees of some rules ahead of the procession.
Sa ating lahat ng mga nais pumunta sa simbahan ng Quiapo at sa Quirino Grandstand. Dalawa po yung ating lugar na pwedeng puntahan. Unang-una, nagsisimula ang mga misa ng Bilyonaryo sa ikawalo ng Enero, sa ganap na ikatatlo ng hapon. Dire-diretso yun ang sunod-sunod. Sa mga nais pumunta sa simbahan ng Quiapo, makikiusap po kami, na po kayo, uminom na po kayo ng tubig, at huwag magdala ng anumang gamit para mabilis na makapasok. Kasi ang sino mang magdadala ng anumang gamit ay magdadaan sa mga scanners. For those who will be attending in Quirino Grandstand, again, we are having a massive campaign. Dahil doon, meron tayong vigil, maraming dyan kumakain, maraming may mga dalang tubig, ano po, that we should be very careful na linisin ang ating paligid. Dahil ang tunay na deboto may malasakit sa kalikasan at marunong sumunod sa alituntunin ng simbahan.
The latest now on the New Orleans attack, the FBI looking into the suspect's visits to Egypt and Canada. Shamsuddin Jabbar also made at least 2 trips to New Orleans in the months prior to the attack. 14 people were killed when he rammed a truck into a crowd of New Year revelers. He was believed to be acting alone. The U.S. Army veteran pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. He was killed in a shootout with police after the rampage.
Our agents are getting answers as to where he went, who he met with, and how those trips may or may not tie into his actions here in our city in New Orleans. From what we now know, Jabbar stayed at a rental home in New Orleans beginning October 30th, 2024. He was in town at least 2 days. During that time, Jabbar, using Meta glasses, recorded a video as he rode through the French Quarter on a bicycle. This video shows Jabbar during that trip in October with his Meta glasses.
All investigative details and evidence that we have now still support that Jabbar acted alone here in New Orleans. We have not seen any indications of an accomplice in the United States, but we are still looking into potential associates in the U.S. and outside of our borders. The case is still very early on.
America's final salute for former U.S. President Jimmy Carter begins. Ceremonies for the late American leader started in his home state of Georgia, with his motorcade making a stop at the state capitol. It then proceeded to the Carter Presidential Library, where a military honor guard received the casket.
He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was President of the United States. And when he won that prize, it was in no small part, as you know, because of the work that this organization has done and continues to do. We will spend this week celebrating this incredible life, and a life that I think we can all agree is as full and powerful as any life can be.
He was an amazing man, and he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world. And it was an amazing thing to watch from so close and to be able to be involved in. And I thank you for your service.
Carter's remains will lie in repose in Georgia before being flown to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday for a funeral service. Carter will then be flown back to Georgia and buried in a private ceremony in his hometown of Plains. Over in Madrid, crowds fill the streets with joy and color. For the annual Three Kings Parade, thousands of spectators, including children, lined the route in the Spanish capital, eagerly waiting to see the kings wave to the crowd. As the kings made their way down the parade, sweets were also handed out to children, adding to the festive mood. Three Kings Day is a Christian holiday that marks the end of the Christmas season. A bluefin tuna fetches 207 million yen, or $1.3 million, at an annual auction in Tokyo. It's the second highest bid since Tokyo's Toyosu Fish Market's auction began in 1999. The prized catch weighed 276 kilograms. It was jointly bought by a renowned tuna wholesaler at an upscale sushi restaurant in Ginza. After the break, we'll give you a look at the winners in this year's Golden Globe Awards. Stay with Newsfeed at noon. You're still watching Newsfeed at noon. Let's now take a look at how the skies are shaping up this week. Joining us on the line is Pag-asa weather specialist Veronica Torres. Good afternoon, Veronica.
Good afternoon, Miss Mai, and all of our audience at Bilyonaryo.
Veronica, we're seeing relatively good weather today. Magpapatuloy ba ito for the rest of the week?
Yes po, nakikita natin kung sa atin sa Metro Manila, patuloy pa nga rin yung magandang panahon, pero posible in the next days mga tsansa na mamayhinang pagulan. Although, pag nasa may silangang bahagi ka ng Luzon or Visayas, posible kang makaranas ng mga pagulan kung hindi dahil sa amihan, dahil sa shear line.
Are we expecting any weather disturbances at least for the next 2 weeks, Veronica? Wala naman sigurong bagyo ngayong January, di ba?
Opo, for now, in the next, bagyo kasi is mabilisan na yung paglalabas nila eh. Pero nakikita naman natin in the next 2 to 3 days, bababa yung tsansa na magkaroon tayo ng bagyo. Pero may yung mga low pressure area, not ruled out po yung chances nila.
Sa Metro Manila specifically, ano po ang forecast ninyo? 5-day forecast for the rest of the week?
For today, expected natin fair weather conditions with chances of localized thunderstorms. And then, sa mga susunod na araw, inaasahan din naman fair weather pa rin, pero dahil malakas yung epekto ng amihan, posible yung mga may hinang pag-ulan lamang.
Sa Visayas at Mindanao naman, Veronica, ano po ang 5-day forecast ng Pag-asa?
Expected natin sa may silangang bahagi ng Visayas, starting tomorrow, doon na magsisimula yung mga paulan caused by shear line. And then the rest of Visayas and Mindanao, sa mga susunod na araw, patuloy yung fair weather conditions with chances of localized thunderstorms.
Alright, maraming salamat, Pag-asa weather specialist Veronica Torres. Some sports news now. 7'3" big man Kai Soto suffers an apparent injury in the Japan B-League. Soto appeared to have hurt his knee or his left knee during this play between his team, the Koshigaya Alphas, and the Mikawa Sea Horses. The results of his MRI have yet to be disclosed. This comes as Soto and Gilas Pilipinas are set to compete in the February window of the 2025 FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers next month. Here at home, Barangay Ginebra San Miguel scores back-to-back wins. In the PBA Commissioner's Cup, the crowd favorites defeated the San Miguel Beermen Sunday at the Smart Araneta Coliseum 93-81. Troy Rosario led the team with a double-double, 22 points and 10 rebounds, and was named Best Player of the game. In the first game, the Meralco Bolts started the year right with a victory over guest team Eastern 88-83. Meralco import Akil Mitchell had a big game with 31 points and 14 rebounds, plus 5 assists and 7 steals. Entertainment news now. The Voice USA champ Sofronio Vasquez is back in his homeland. Sofronio arrived here yesterday ahead of his first solo concert in Cebu on January 18. He made history last year as the first Filipino and Asian winner in The Voice USA's 26 seasons. A new award season kicks off in Hollywood, with The Brutalist taking home major prizes. The film received the Golden Globe for the Best Picture in the Drama category, as well as Best Actor for Adrian Brody. The Best Actress prize for drama, meanwhile, went to Fernanda Torres for her performance in I'm Still Here. Emilia Perez took home the trophy for Best Movie Comedy or Musical. As for the top prizes in TV, the Best Musical or Comedy Award went to HBO's Hacks, while hit Netflix series Shogun snagged the Best TV Drama honor. Exciting award season. And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Good afternoon.